The U.S. and Iran ramping up their fight for control of the Strait of Hormuz, a series of attacks in the waterway threatening to derail a fragile ceasefire. Iran's parliament speaker says the country is just getting started and accused the U.S. and its allies of undermining maritime security. Now, he stressed Iran will not give up control of the vital waterway. Tehran has denied reports its combat ships were hit by American attacks. Iranian media reported that the U.S. Navy had instead targeted what appears to be civilian boats carrying goods towards Iran, reportedly killing at least 5 people. Seoul is now considering joining U.S.-led operations after a South Korean-operated vessel was damaged just off the UAE. Now, President Donald Trump blamed Tehran for firing at the vessel, setting off an explosion. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has also reportedly expanded its claimed maritime control to include major Emirati coastal areas. The U.S., on the other hand, is trying to break Tehran's chokehold on the strait with Project Freedom, an escort mission for stranded ships. Now, beyond Hormuz, Iranian military officials confirm the strike on a UAE energy facility, saying it was a response to what it called U.S. military's adventurism. Now, the attack injured 3 Indian nationals, prompting rebuke from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who reaffirmed New Delhi's solidarity with the Emirates. Well, let's go now to Toni Waterman. She's covering the story for CNA from Washington, D.C., and then to Blake Sifton joining us from Tel Aviv. Toni, first to you. What's the posture of the U.S. forces in response to the latest hostilities in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, a press briefing from the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane is just now getting way. So we are expecting to get more detail on how Project Freedom is being carried out and what the implications are. But what we know right now from CENTCOM, Central Command, is that 6 Iranian fast boats were destroyed on Monday after they allegedly tried to interfere with the U.S. guiding these vessels through that strategic waterway. Of course, Iran has denied this. Military officials also saying that they have intercepted Iranian cruise missiles and drones fired by Tehran, and denying that any U.S. weapons or any Iranian weapons, rather, have hit U.S. warships, and that at least 2 U.S. flagged vessels were guided through the Strait of Hormuz on Monday. According to President Trump, Iranian forces did hit a South Korean cargo ship, and he even went so far as to suggest that Seoul now get involved in the reopening of the strait. Seoul is saying that it's going to wait to do an investigation as to what caused this fire once that vessel is towed back to a safe place. But local media in South Korea reporting that the country is now mulling this option of getting involved. And certainly earlier in this war, it said that it would partner with France to help reopen the strait. Meanwhile, you have Iran, which remains very adamant that it is still controlling this vital waterway and that it will use force against any ships trying to transit without its permission.
And Blake, to you next. And just as we began speaking, the Defense Secretary of the U.S., Pete Hegseth, has begun a press conference briefing on the Iran war. We will update on that. But meanwhile, how are regional players reacting to the strikes on the UAE, given that they weren't personally involved in this latest hostilities? And are there risks of wider escalations?
Good evening, Jill. This is certainly the most serious and dangerous escalation since the ceasefire came into effect nearly a month ago. With violence erupting in multiple locations in the Gulf yesterday, observers in the region are concerned that this violence could perhaps spiral out of control. And in recognition of that, countries across the region have unanimously condemned those attacks against the UAE. Qatar called them a blatant violation of the UAE's sovereignty and a serious threat to the security and stability of the region. Kuwait condemned the attacks as reprehensible aggression and said that they are threatening regional security and the safety of global supply lines. Saudi Arabia said that they denounced those attacks in the strongest possible terms, and they affirmed their solidarity with the brotherly United Arab Emirates. Now, that is significant because in recent weeks and months, Tensions have been high between Saudi Arabia and the UAE over Abu Dhabi leaving OPEC, as well as them supporting opposite sides in Sudan's civil war, as well as in southern Yemen. But countries in the Gulf take these Iranian attacks so seriously that they are unifying them despite their differences.
Now, Toni, you heard Blake there saying that the regional players are picking their sides. Meanwhile, do we have any clarity at all of the status of the ceasefire?
Well, there's absolutely no doubt that this ceasefire is being tested at this point. You have this direct engagement now between U.S. and Iranian forces. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was just speaking about this in his press briefing, saying that the U.S. naval blockade turned around 6 ships yesterday. You also have Iran firing off missiles and drones at neighboring countries, most notably, of course, is the UAE. But Iran views Project Freedom and this ongoing naval blockade as a violation of the ceasefire. The Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mohammad Ghalibaf, accusing the U.S. of jeopardizing energy security, saying we know full well that the continuation of the status quo is intolerable for America. Well, we have not even begun yet. So really sort of using strong language there to imply that Iran is just not going to capitulate to the United States. And meanwhile, CNN is reporting that Israel is now coordinating with the U.S., preparing for another round of potential strikes on Iran, really focused on energy infrastructure and killing senior officials. So even if a ceasefire is holding right now, however shaky it may be, if these attacks were to take place, whatever is left of that ceasefire would likely collapse pretty quickly.
All right. Many thanks to Toni Waterman there reporting from Washington, D.C.